most of you sort of are very excited about, and management are exceptionally excited about it. And about a year and a half ago, I was in London, and I was meeting with somebody who's been in the diamond industry for about 30 years. His family have been in the diamond sector since Sir Ernest Oppenheimer originally set up the broker system, and that's going back to about 1917. So they know diamonds. And I said to him, how do you sell a 1,000-carat stone? And you could see the color drain from his face, because nobody ever has actually had to sell a 1,000-carat stone. And his answer to me was, you take a hammer, you break it into pieces, and you sell the pieces. So, oddly enough, when we announced that stone, it was the first phone call that I got, was from this person. Obviously, congratulations. But then you could hear the fear in his voice. He's going, well, maybe we should do this. And it is. What Lucara now has is we get to pioneer something again. How do you sell a 1,000-carat stone? And when people ask me, so what is the value of the stone? The value of the stone is what somebody is willing to pay for it. Are they paying based on the yield that the stone will produce if they polish it? Are they buying it based on its historical significance? This is the second largest gem quality stone ever recovered. It is the first 1,000-carat stone in more than 100 years to be recovered. It is recovered and will be sold on Botswana's 50th anniversary of independence. So there's a lot of things that you can actually attach to the stone. Ignore that one. The reason why I say that is it competes directly with this one. So we've got one picture out. Don't expect to see another picture of the 813-carat stone until we've actually been able to sell this one. And it's the same as, I'll give you an example. We had announced that when we announced the 342-carat stone, there was another mining company who a week before had recovered a beautiful, and I saw a picture of this stone, a beautiful 314-carat stone. And when they went to the market and they said, we'd like to sell it, they said, no, we're waiting for Lucara's 342. And that's exactly what, odd enough, is internally. So the money which we are going to get for this one, it will be potentially saved for that one. So we need to actually look at the overall sales structure. And I'll look at Glenn again for this one. If anybody here understands the tax regime in Botswana, selling both of these in 1 year actually increases our taxes significantly. And the government takes most of the money which we could give back to shareholders. So there is a business case for not selling this one at all during 2016. Challenge is if we recover another large stone during 2016, I'm just making the problem worse. But when we start to look at how best to manage the cash flow which flows to the bottom line, we need to take all of that into consideration in how we sell it. So things about the stone, I should actually have a button that deletes that picture. But things about this stone is, how do we sell it? So we have contact with all the diamond tiers. We have people that have been to our exceptional stone tenders. So I think from the diamond side, we're well covered. But when we start to look at what the potential value is, we need to target alternative people. We had an ad that ran in the Financial Times in July last year, looking at, is there an option for people to buy stones like that as collector's items? And we got some very interesting emails, people that were not interested in polishing the stone. They would put it in the safe, and when a stone like that is sold to a diamond tier, because of the size of the stone, the risk associated with it, getting insurance, you could have the stone explode on the wheels and you don't get the yield, they will normally look for at least a 30% premium. So if somebody here, if you have a lot of money, and you want to bid on the stone, and you go to polish it, you could very easily make between 40 and 50%, especially on the stone, depending on how many smaller stones or whether you could get a large stone out of it. So people will actually put it in the safe, and when they want to monetize it, it is a fairly sort of easily transportable thing as well. They can actually do it at a later stage. But it is a store of wealth, an appreciating store of wealth, especially for a stone this size. My take on it, and sort of, if somebody has a different example, please tell me. For the weight of the stone, that is currently the most valuable thing on the planet, value for weight. And I can't think of anything else that would be more valuable. So I'm guessing there's none. So what we're actually doing is, we are going to take it on a roadshow. I could tell you when, but that's all confidential. But it's actually to get the stone exposure to ultra-high net worth individuals, diamond tiers across the planet. So we're looking at most probably 10 cities. I cannot tell you when it's going to start yet because that's kind of undefined. But the biggest challenge which we have is how do you actually sell it? The final sales process. Because we believe if there's two people that want the stone, you want it in a live auction. And we've now got to speak to the reputable auction companies to see whether they'll actually sell a rough stone. Nobody's ever sold a stone like this. So it's great to be going through the learning process. And I guess I complain about it, but it's a very good problem to have. And then, obviously, if you have the world's second largest stone, it needs an appropriate name. So what we're actually doing on sort of sometime in the future, we're actually going to go out and have the Botswana public name the stone. It is a process which we need to get them involved in. It is a stone from Botswana. And I think if we look at their sort of 50th independence, it's one of the things which we do want to actually be able to sort of hand back in terms of something that comes from Botswana. So we're looking at sort of getting a name out. In terms of the overall timing, difficult to say, but we would like to have the name out as soon as possible. I'm not even going to go through this slide apart from to say the margins are still pretty good. This is all Q3 information. You most probably would have seen it the last time I was here, or you have actually seen it sometime in the past couple of weeks. And then going on to the exploration, and I think this is sort of what a lot of people are quite excited about as well. In September 2014, we were awarded with the 2 prospecting license. We now have the bulk sample plant on site. I'm going to jump forward. This is our BSP. The reason why there's all this rubbish is because we're actually using it. This is the sample pit for BK2. So this is about 30 kilometers away. In terms of the overall geochemistry, the abundance of indicator material which we have, this does seem to be one of the better ones. We were hoping to actually have a lot more material processed by the end of the year. We're about 20% through the 5,000 ton sample, so we do expect results to be a little bit later. There's nothing we can do about that. The recirculating load through the BSP, although it works very, very well. The tailings that comes out of there is beautiful, consistent, -6 millimeter material, but it does take a lot longer to get the material through. But it's important to get all the material down to a certain size because we're looking at maximum liberation. Let's recover all the diamonds so we can actually understand the economic potential of it. So BK2 is going very well. And then the other two, the reason why we have this, I've left this one in. With the diamond mines, actually it's all over, they do it sort of in most places. The government will issue with, this is your mining lease area, but around it they have a protection area. And we can't actually go and do anything. The ministry have said, yes, it's fine, here are your permits. We just need a letter from Botswana to allow us to go and work in their protection area. They may already have it. I just need to confirm that when I'm down on site next week. But otherwise, we already have approval to go and take the samples from BK11 and 12. EIA is very sort of far advanced now to enable us to go drill, and the one I want to drill is 13. If we look at the geophysical anomaly, we thought it was a dike, and it actually looks like a magnetic lobe. So, hey, there's a chance it could be just a block of basalt, but it could also be a kimberlite. So there are other exciting things which we're looking at as far as our exploration program is concerned, going into really I guess the results from BK2, if I'm optimistic before the end of the first quarter, but I'm guessing most probably into the second quarter would be a more realistic number. And then, because by then they'll actually understand how to get the tons through the plant, we'll look at sort of most probably a 4 to 5 month process for the other two sets of results. So really, just to reiterate, Karowe remains our key asset. Every time I go to site or I look at results, I'm always surprised that there are things that they don't tell me. I'll go through the carat report and I go, you recovered 100 carat stone. But I think with the number of 100 carat stones which we've recovered so far, and here's something which maybe you don't want to do, and I know that people do it. If I told you that we're now sitting just over, and I'm saying just over, 100 plus 100 carat stones recovered, people will quickly go back and they'll have a look at the exceptional stone brochure and they'll go, so in the exceptional stone brochures, they've sold 50 stones larger than 100. Therefore, they should have 50 in inventory. It doesn't work like that because those other 50 are rubbish and they've been sold as part of the regular tenders. There was an announcement when we had the results of the November exceptional stone tender that we also recovered a 255 carat stone, and I think it was a 248, somewhere around there. And I know that people are going, well, when we have the exceptional stone brochure and there's no 255, people are going to go, well, where's the 255? It's sold. It was horrible, so we sold it as part of the December sale. It sold for us probably about $400,000 or $500,000. It's not quite an exceptional stone tender. But I think what we've been able to do, the stones which we now put into the exceptional stone tender are truly exceptional. Minimum reserve price, $1 million. Do we actually have the ability to potentially increase that? But that's why we see sort of those 250 carat rubbish stones, or maybe not so rubbish according to other diamond companies, are going to go into the regular tenders. But we're still going to sell them. So no, we do not have a shoebox full of 50 plus 100 carat stones. Those would be the poor quality stones, and they would be sold as part of the regular tenders. One thing that Lucara does do is, we at this stage have not had to manage inventory because we're not flooding the market with large and exceptional stones. But what we do want everybody to understand is the consistent recovery of the 100 carat stones is the reason why we put those numbers out. It's to make sure that people understand that they are not slowing down. We are still seeing the ongoing recovery of the size distribution which we expect. So our cash flows will speak for themselves. Nice number when the results come out. And I think if we look at what we actually have to sell, or for sale this year, we can only see a strengthening of our balance sheet. We've got the growth potential coming out of the exploration, as well as the deep drilling to extend the resource. So we now have more material that we can actually access through the current life of mine. And just hypothetically, if we're looking at the bottom of the pit is 310 meters, and that's 2026. If we have another 300 meters of kip out, which we can access through underground, it's just life extension. And it starts to, especially in the south lobe, it just starts to add more and more value to the growing mine. Just reiteration, the guidance there, 200, 220, excluding the sale of one or two of the large stones. We're looking at 350, 380,000 carats sold for around about the same operating costs, between 33 and 36.50 dollars a carat. I look at Glenn because you can see, have a look, he's smiling because he knows we're coming under that. I think they just pad it so that they know that there's a little bit of flex in there. But I think even though we've got money in the bank, I'll reiterate, the guys on site are very, very focused on making sure, number one, they maximize value. One of the things which we have on site, we're not mining diamonds, we're mining money, the same as any other mining company. And mining money comes down to getting the tons in the plant. Reprocessing things just because the plants are slowed down doesn't actually add fresh feed in. So it's one I'm very proud of how the guys' mindset is slowly changing to make sure that they're actually looking at the value of the resource instead of processing material which is uneconomic. And then obviously on the exploration side, things are progressing maybe not as quickly as what we had wanted. But with BK2 sample going through, we are sort of seeing the results which we wanted to see in terms of the actual recoveries. But we don't have a statistically significant volume of material processed to put out any data now. So we'll look to those results later on in the year, as I mentioned, most probably closer to Q2. And I think that's it. Any questions? There must be at least one question. Make it up. Oh, yes.
2 questions.
Oh, you don't ever do it.
First, you have a vivid thing, 12 carat, or what happened with that?
No, there was a very pale pink. 12 carat was very pale. We put in very, very pale. It has been sold. It was nowhere near. When people polish a coloured stone, even if there's an inclusion, they'll polish it in. But it's all about the geometry. So when you have a white stone, you want perfect symmetry. So the light goes in, comes out. On a coloured stone, what they'll do is they'll modify it. And even with a stone like that, they will most probably be able to get it to, maybe not vivid, but definitely fancy. That little black inclusion, they like it on the outside. Otherwise, they polish it in, because it's all about the intensity of the colour. So with that very, very pale pink stone, even if they looked at the geometry, they were not going to get anything sort of specific out of it. So it actually then defaults to sort of the same price as the white. We do joke about sort of, we see the large white stones being produced. And we keep sort of asking the guys on site. I have bets with each of them. I actually had to draw, I owe somebody $100. But it's encouraging because they go back and they make sure that if they're going to come to me and sort of say, $100 for them is sort of, if you convert it into pula, it's quite a bit of money. So if they're going to make a bet with me, they're going to make sure that they've actually done their homework. So we actually have, there's no bets on coloured stones, just because we haven't seen very large coloured stones being produced from the South Lobe. The South Lobe has, however, produced sort of parcels of very small pinks and blues. So we know that they're there, and it doesn't take much for suddenly a larger coloured stone. But the 12 carat stone is gone for nothing of significance.
So the second question was with the new with the Tomra machinery. can you see a risk with your competitors installing these machines, and you clutter the sort of the high end of the market with a lot of big stones?
So our competitors are actually installing, but not the Tomra machine. Oh. So you have the three producers. You have a Burovesnik, which comes out of Russia. Doesn't use quite the same technology. Steiner through IMS, which is a Japanese company, they produce a machine which we actually evaluated as part of the process, and then you have the Tomra machine. If they do install it, where they would be recovering a 300 carat stone and maybe a 40 carat stone that was broken off, it's a 370 carat stone. It's just one stone instead of two. So them installing the technology will actually reduce the number of stones up for sale. Yes, it might at the very, very top end, but I think with what we're producing at the moment, there is still the probability of recovering three, actually let's make it larger than 400 carat stones, is still a 1 in many year event. So even with the installation of those, the quality of the deposits, and there's only one company who would potentially sort of be able to sort of recover 1 or 2 more stones than what they are now. But the volume of stones which are actually in the deposits which they're mining is not going to be there. We still have more of a risk of flooding the market based on the volume of diamonds which we're producing. And that's why when I talk about the 200, 220, we're happy to keep it there because we can see the money cycling back. So we're not flooding the market with large stones where they're just coming back and saying we don't have money so we can offer very, very low values. Great, thank you very much. Oh, so another one.
If you recover stones, do you have to make it public that you recover the amount of them, or can you hide them?
Can I hide them without going to jail? So it does come down to materiality. With the recovery of the 239, the very first large stone, it was massively material. If we recovered a 239 carat stone now, nobody's going to know about it. So as we've recovered larger and more of the stones, our materiality has actually changed. So we're now looking at more value than size. I'll tell you, we recovered a 355 carat stone. Ugly as sin. Oddly enough, it had a partner, 250 carats. The original stone was 600. That stone would most probably be worth the cumulative value of money that everybody has in their wallet here. So it's not material. So when we start to look at it, we were probably sitting at somewhere around about a 450 to 500 carat stone gem quality, which is where the limit is of our materiality. So 380 carat stone most probably wouldn't be announced. We're now looking for above that. So the inventory is valued at cost. So we could actually sit with inventory much higher than what people would be able to see in our financials. But that also enables us to have better control over whether we're flooding the market or not. So, as an example, my biggest fear is, actually at the end of last year, was the recovery of a 500 carat stone. If we recovered a 500 carat gem quality stone, the value of those other 2 stones would have decreased. Because we now have too many stones that could potentially polish into a size which are then competing against each other. So your question is very good because there's things that we are obligated to do, but if I announced that 500 carat, the market would have been happy and the share price would have gone down. But with the sales values out for the other stones, everybody would have been, same as the exceptional stone tender, very upset because we wouldn't have got the value of those stones because they now know that there's other stones to come and they will hold money back. Yes?
And what is the political risk in Botswana? Will there be a risk there is a changed government that would like to exploit your resources or taxation, for instance, that they have higher tax on e-commerce and so on?
Are we taxed?
They want to get something out of it,
so,
more than they do today.
Let me explain how much the government actually gets out. So, government has a 10% overriding top-line royalty. So if we sell $200 million worth of diamonds, government gets $20 million. 200 million pula, it's called.
Are they satisfied with that? Are they satisfied with that?
So let me carry on and I'll come back.
Okay.
On top of that, in Botswana, so they have had diamond mining for now more than 40 years. So they've had a lot of opportunity to refine how much money they extract from the diamond companies. So as our profit ratio ramps up, profit to revenue, so does the tax rate. So worst tax rate in Botswana is 55%. Hence the reason for not wanting to sell both stones in the same year. It will maximize our tax.